Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today's video I'm going to talk to you about Mars in Aries going square to Saturn in Capricorn. Okay, this is a big energy. This is a big aspect that we have going on here. Let me just start by describing these two planets and the signs that they're in. Mars in Aries. Mars rules Aries. Mars loves Aries. Mars in Aries can let its fire blaze, right? It's like a flamethrower, right? When you have Mars in Aries, Mars, god of war, loves it. It is unfettered. Nothing stands in its way when it's in the sign of Aries. Saturn is in the sign of Capricorn. Saturn, the planet of rules, structures, order, loves Capricorn because Capricorn is the hierarchy. Capricorn represents these structures, the system that we live with, that we all live within and we navigate through. That is Capricorn. It's that hierarchy, okay? And so these two planets, both in their power, both very strong, making a square aspect to one another creates consequence. This is an energy that is there. It is tense because it is in 90 degrees. It is in conflict, yes, but if we use it effectively, we can use it in a very, very meaningful, productive way. This is an energy that can create results in the physical, tangible world and in our lives if we use it. However, it can be very intense. Okay, so let's talk about it. So first we have Mars. Mars is, as I said, Mars energy. It's kind of on a rampage, right? What I mean by that, Mars, the god of war, it rules behavior, it rules will. Okay, and when it's in harmonious aspect, that can be very flowing and very good, very nice. Okay, but when it's intense aspect, it can shake things up a bit. It can really, its will can really cause some ruckus. Okay, that's what Mars and Aries square to planets can do. Now, square to Saturn, we're gonna know about that. We're gonna feel it because Saturn is, just as Mars is a green light, hit the gas, Mars is a stop sign, hit the brake. Okay, and that creates a tension. It's like burning rubber. Okay, so Mars is making its this aspect. This is going to be one of three aspects that it makes in the next 5 or so months to Saturn. Okay, square aspect. So this is just the first of three negotiations, if you want to call it that. Three confrontations, if you want to call it that. Okay, you got 1, 2, and 3. The first one is this week. It's going to be happening. We're going to be feeling that. The second one is going to involve Mars going. Mars will be retrograde. It's going to be happening in October 1st. Mars is going to be retrograde. Saturn is also going to be retrograde, but it is going to be stationing direct. It's going to be it's going to be right before it stations direct. So it's going to be, when a planet is getting ready to go retrograde or direct, the energy of that planet, its consequence, is heightened because it's moving slower. So right now, Mars energy, because it's getting ready to go retrograde, Mars is getting ready to go retrograde. Mars will go retrograde in September. So it is starting to slow down. But once we get into late September, early October, Saturn will be getting ready to go direct. So it will be slowing down, getting ready to go direct. The point I'm trying to make is both times when these energies get together, they have some intensity, they have some juice with them. Okay, the last aspect is going to be in mid-January, and it's going to involve two totally different signs. I do think the conversation will, at that time, between these two planets is going to be very different, and the landscape is going to be very different upon which this conversation is being had. So I don't want to get too far away, but just know that this is the first of three conversations, and understand that whatever's happening now is going to be revisited again and is going to be resolved, I believe, once we get into next year. So just understand that this energy that we're experiencing right now is involved in a larger process. This is not just a one-off kind of thing, okay? All right, so I said that Mars is getting ready to go retrograde, yes. So it is, I'm going to do another video about that when it happens. That'll be next month, but it is starting to slow down, okay? And so I kind of think of it like this. you're driving down the highway, toward a city, right? And so if you drive down high, you're going like 70 or whatever you're doing, and you're on the road, and then all of a sudden you can kind of see some lights in the distance, right? And maybe you can see some red lights in the distance. Maybe you can see an intersection, and you say, okay, that's coming up. I probably better slow down a little bit, because it's starting to get closer or whatever. You're not there yet, but it's starting to get there, and it's in your mind. Okay, start to slow down a little bit. Okay, well, Saturn is acting like the speed bumps. That okay, you're just humming along. You're gonna stop, sure, but all of a sudden you get those speed, those da-dum, 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 da-dum. Okay, that's what Saturn is. Saturn says, yeah, but let me tangibly make it known that there is a stop sign here. Okay, that we have some considerations, that there are some things that you are not accounting for, Mars. This is the greater malefic Saturn saying, adhere, understand, I am here and I am going to cause friction to your forward movement. Okay, there is going to be something rubbing up against what you're trying to push forward. Okay, that's what's happening, right? So just understand it that way. With Saturn this week, Saturn is going to be making a direct square. We've probably felt a little bit of that friction as we've gone into this aspect, because it's not like we hit one day and all of a sudden the aspect is there. No, these planets are moving slower and they're inching up on each other. And so for this week, we're going to be pretty much in the vicinity of Mars and Saturn being squared into one another. We're going to be dealing with this energy pretty directly this week. And so I kind of see it like this. We've had Mars in Aries pretty strong for the past month or so. It's been moving at a pretty good speed. It had a square to Mars, which can be very psychological, and it can be very consequential too, but more I do think of it in a collective psychological way when you're looking at Mars square to Pluto, but it can affect things in the external world too, in a more generational sense. But this one is a more tangible square that we're having. So Mars has been humming along in Aries, having a good old time, doing its thing, being itself, driving its will forward. And we probably felt like we wanted to act in whatever way, whether it's collectively for some purpose or some cause, or individually just wanting to get out and move around. Right? Mars has been there giving us that fire, that energy. Okay. Well, now again we've hit the speed bumps. Okay, and so now we can see the lights in the background, and now Mars is starting to slow us down. What does this mean individually? What's the advice here? It means that whatever we put forth actively in our behavior, in our actions right now, the further and further along we go, and the more and more we push and we try to use that Mars energy in Aries, it's going to have diminishing returns. The less and less we're going to get for it. Okay? That's sort of the advice right now with Mars in Aries hitting Saturn. Okay? There may be a week or so, maybe next week, maybe 10 days or so where Mars gets past Saturn directly and has a little bit more forward movement. But keep in mind, Mars is still slowing down because it's about to go retrograde. So I do think what's happening here is the speed limit just went from 70 to 45, and then eventually it's going to hit 25, and then we're going to hit it, the roundabout, we're going to turn around. Okay. So understand that's sort of what we're dealing with here. So the advice is whatever forward push we have, if it's not well thought out, if it's not considerate of Saturn and Saturnian things, then it's probably not going to go very far. It's probably going to be a waste. Okay? And what are Saturnian things? What is Saturn in Capricorn? Capricorn is, Saturn is the sign of authority and rules and regulations, limitations, doing it the right way and doing it the hard way, step by step. Okay? Capricorn is the structure that allows one to do it the long, hard, integrous way where you skip no steps, right? So we have to, with any forward push and drive and will that we have right now, it's very important that we have consideration. Consideration is the key word here. Our actions are very considered of Saturn in Capricorn, because if we don't, we could find ourselves expending a lot more energy that we're getting back and ultimately causing problems for ourselves. It's just not going to be as effective as it was a month ago or even over the summer when Mars was in Pisces. Okay, it didn't have this energy of blockage or conflict. It's not a direct block. It's more of a friction. All right, it's more of a very strongly worded suggestion that will have consequences of Mars burning itself out if it doesn't listen. Because Mars is not only going square to Saturn, but Mars is also slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde. So, you could kind of think of it as the speed bumps, which are Saturn saying, look, be mindful, be considerate, understand there's a larger dynamic, a larger structure in place that you have to adhere to. There's a larger power structure in play here. You could kind of think of that as guiding Mars and being this sort of it's I mean, you could almost say it's like the it's like the warning signs before you drive off a cliff. I don't know. It's kind of, you could almost say, even though it may be confrontational and there could be conflict with this, and it could feel frictious and you can feel stifled because Mars is getting ready to go retrograde. You could almost say that it's in our best interest because we're going to be doing this anyway. If Saturn wasn't there, then it's would be ever more possible for us to just to push, and then fall flat and die of exhaustion, right? But Saturn is sort of, setting the roadway for us to know we're getting ready to turn around here, okay? So try to use that analogy as best you can. I know it's a story and it's an analogy, but just try to apply that as best you can. Because what I see happening here is Saturn, as we get into September, and we have the new moon in September 17th, the new moon is going to be trine to Saturn. And then once we get into late September, early October, Saturn is going to be going direct again. So I see Saturn getting its mojo back. Saturn has been going retrograde for a while now. It went retrograde back in the spring. And at first it was retrograde in Aquarius. And so as soon as it went retrograde, it stalled out there, and we were reassessing on how we were going to build the future, okay? We had some new realities, Saturn, that had set in, and Saturn was now reassessing how these realities were going to be built upon, okay? And then once it retrograde back into Capricorn, we said, okay, what from the past? Because Capricorn is about the past, about the tried and true, the old guard. Saturn going back there, Saturn is very much nostalgic and past focused. Saturn going retrograde back in there said, okay, well, what can we use from the past? What still has value and what can we get rid of? Okay? Well, that process is starting to come to an end, and it will come to an end late September, early October. And we will finally start building upon that which still has value in the world that we find ourselves in. Because Saturn going retrograde in Capricorn says, okay, well, yes, we're going to throw some stuff out and we're going to lose some stuff here because Saturn is about removal. But it's also about don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's find what is valuable, what has substance, what we can build upon so that when we do go forward with Saturn and Capricorn, we can build upon it. So Saturn is sort of slowly getting itself ready to lay down a foundation, okay? And Mars is getting ready, slowly going into a phase where it's going to reflect on its actions. Okay, I have to be considerate of the new realities that's forming around me, And how do I go about that? Mars is going to be asking itself a lots of questions. And what does that mean for us? It means that we as individual people will be in Aries. We'll be with Mars in Aries. Mars in Aries rules individuals, okay? Individual actions, right? Very Aryan, okay? So with Mars going retrograde in Aries, we are going to be assessing, okay, well, how does our actions, how does our drive, how does our will, our push, how do we use that going forward? Like how does it have value? I mean, there's the way we've always done it and the actions we've always taken, but there's a new world being built around us with Saturn. How do we account for that? How do we take actions in relation to that are considerate of that? Because that's what's ultimately going to be effective, and that's what's ultimately going to be built upon in the new world that we're all building collectively together. So that's what I got. So I guess the take for this week with Mars going retrograde to Saturn is whatever actions we take, now's the time for those actions to be considered. Considered action. Okay? Just keep that in mind. We have a full moon next week. I'll do a video and I'll tie some of this into that video. But for now, for this week, just with whatever push, it's very important to get strategic about pushing forward and to not just blindly push ahead. Otherwise, we're going to burn ourselves out. And we could create some significant problems for ourselves too. We're talking about Saturn and Capricorn. That could be legal. That could be systemic. So just be aware of that right now. That's sort of the space that we're in for this week. It's a very awesome, productive energy, though. If we use this energy in a very considered way, we can, in a very efficient way, we can create a lot of hay for ourselves. We can really create outcome in the physical world. We can really get ahead. This is a great energy for being professional and moving ahead in work. This is a great energy for work. But again, with Mars getting ready to go retrograde, hitting Saturn, just don't burn yourself out. Understand there is a longer time frame to consider. Try to have a little vision on this beyond just the here and now, because there is a backdrop that is forming that goes further into time, out into next year. So that's what I got. I hope this was useful. I'll do another video about the full moon, and I'll do another video about Mars when it gets further along here. When it goes retrograde, it is going to make a nice aspect to Venus in a couple of weeks, and I'll do a video about that. I do see, once Mars does go retrograde, I do see Mars, at least in the beginning of that retrograde, having a little bit more focus on interpersonal relationships with Venus. And so that'll be nice. A little bit of reflection time with Mars, less outward push and more internal. But yet it could be a nice harmony between self and other in a more, Venus is about one-to-one relationships. So this could be in a personal way that we start to make more personal connections, not so outward collective focused, right, with the energy. It's more inward, more interpersonal. Could be more fun too, but definitely more chill. So I do see cooler heads prevailing here in the near future. Maybe not right at first. There may be another week or so where things are heated, but I do see the heat cooling off. I mean, just kind of think of it as seasons. It is going to get cooler here in the northern hemisphere, so it's kind of mirroring that a little bit. We're going to start cooling off a little bit, astrologically too. And there's going to be a new energy with Saturn coming forth that is a little bit more practical and restrictive, and it's a little bit more foundational. So do with that what you will. But for now, for this week, go to work and use it. You can get ahead if that's what you want. Go for it, man. Now's the time to put the hours in and see what you can create for yourself. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.